Hello, scientific writers. In today's video, we are going to discuss the question, should you care about journal impact factor when it comes time to decide where to publish your research? Hi, I am Brian from the Grants and Publications YouTube channel. Journal impact factor seems to be a really important consideration for a lot of people. Should it be? So I'm going to give you my thoughts as a former professor, a grant reviewer, a journal article reviewer, and someone who has been publishing for over 20 years. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should not care about journal impact factor, and I'll give you 5 reasons why you should care about journal impact factor, and then I'll give you my overall opinion. Alright, so let's start with the 5 reasons that you should not care about journal impact factor. The first one is that your work is the same. Your research results are the same, no matter which journal they're published in. And so if your research is strong, people are going to find it. These days with Google Scholar and Web of Science and Scopus, with the right keywords in your article, people are going to find it. And it's the same work if it's published in one journal or the other. So it really doesn't matter in that regard where you publish. So you shouldn't worry about journal impact factor. Just get it out into the public domain and let the other researchers in your field decide how important it is by whether they cite it or not. Reason number 2 is that journal impact factors are average citations for all of the citable items in that journal. They don't say anything about the individual article's citation rates. And I had a previous video where I talked about the definition and the calculation of journal impact factor. I'll link it here. But my point in saying that you should not care about journal impact factor is there's no guarantee that publishing in that high impact factor journal will get you a lot of citations. So don't worry about the impact factor. Worry about the content of your paper. Reason number 3, some fields just don't have high impact factor journals. Maybe the highest impact factor journal in your particular area of research is 3, 4, or 5. Why worry about the distinction between an impact factor of 1.5 and 3? It's really not that much different. Now, if you're in a field where there are high impact journals, then maybe this reason doesn't apply to you. But for those of you that are in fields where there just are not high impact factor journals, obviously you don't need to worry about impact factor as one of the considerations for where you publish. Reason number 4 that you should not worry about impact factor is because you can waste a lot of time trying to get into those high impact journals. Now, I saw on Twitter just the other day somebody was talking about a friend of theirs that had had a paper under review for 3 years, and then it got rejected after 3 years of being in review, multiple rounds of feedback and going back and forth with the reviewers and the editors. In the end, they rejected it. That's 3 years of time that paper is not being in the literature, influencing the field and having an impact. So if they had just published it in a lower impact factor journal where it's probably easier to get in, it would have gone faster. Now, you can have a strategy where you go for the highest impact factor journal, and if it gets rejected, you go for the next level, and if it gets rejected, you go for the next one. But you can spend a lot of time doing that and ask yourself, is it worth it? So that's a reason to not care about impact factor. Reason number 5, for journals where there is an open access option or the journal itself is open access, the high impact factor journals tend to be very expensive compared to the mid-tier and low impact factor journals. So they cost a lot of money. So is it worth spending all that money just to publish in a high impact factor journal? You make up your own mind. Before I move into the reasons that you should care about impact factor, the 5 yes reasons, let me mention that I published another video that shows other metrics besides the journal impact factor, and you can look at that video. And if you're getting value from this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the Grants and Publications YouTube channel if you would like more videos about scientific writing and scientific writing topics. Alright, so let's get into the 5 yes reasons. 5 reasons you should care about journal impact factor. The first one is that the higher impact factor journals tend to be more selective. They have a more highly scrutinized review process. And so if you get your paper into that high impact factor journal, it shows your colleagues that you have cleared a certain high hurdle. It's kind of an endorsement of the community that your research is worthy of that high level of scrutiny. So that's one of my yes reasons. The second reason that you should care about impact factor is that impact factor translates to prestige. So when you as a researcher are being evaluated by hiring committees, by peer reviewers, and by grant reviewers, by the promotion and tenure committee, they're going to look at the journal impact factor of the journals that you have published in. And they're going to assign some value to you as a researcher based on that number. Now, I'm not saying it should be done. If you look at my previous video on the uses and misuses of journal impact factor, that's a misuse of journal impact factor, is to evaluate an individual researcher. The H-index is a much better indicator, and I made a video on H-index that you can see here. But we have to look at how reviewers are actually using it, not how it should be. So that's reason number 2. Reason number 3 is that research in higher impact factor journals is considered to be more credible by people in your field, by reporters that write science journalism and report on new publications, and by hiring committees, etc. And so since it's considered to be more credible, if you want your work to have more impact and get cited more often, it might be a good idea to go for that higher impact factor journal. Reason number 4 is that it increases the chances of your paper being read and being cited. Now, these higher impact factor journals tend to have higher readership. And just by the definition of journal impact factor, they have higher citation rates. Now, I did talk about in my previous video that citation rates across the individual articles are not uniform, and publishing in the high impact factor journal is no guarantee that you'll get more citations. But it is more likely that you will get more reads and more citations because people do tend to find these higher impact factor journals. They're more likely to read these journals and talk about them in Journal Club and cite the work from the higher impact factor journals. And that brings me to point number 5. We just need to face reality. Even though the journal impact factor should not be used in these ways, it is. It is used by people to evaluate you as a researcher, to evaluate your article in terms of its credibility and quality. And again, I'm not saying it should be that way, but since it is, we have to deal with reality as it is, not as it should be. So my overall answer to you when I ask the question, should you care about journal impact factor, is yes. You should. You should take that as one of the factors that comes into you deciding on a target journal. And it should be a highly weighted factor. Now, I'm not saying that you should only go for top-end journals every time, but if you're going to go for a lower impact journal, do that consciously and make it a conscious decision. There are a lot of factors that go into deciding where you're going to publish. I'm not saying you should only go for top-end journals, but do keep in mind that the position in the hierarchy of journals within that category is going to affect the impact of your work. That's just the way it is in science today. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. I'll see you next time, and happy writing.